pre-qualifying questions are the questions you ask at the very beginning of a sales cycle. So these might be to ask during cold calls and meeting someone at a networking event. But I want to actually I'll get back to that on another slide. But I want to point out that look at this circle here, this pie chart. And the circle is really everybody that we can sell to that kind of fits somewhat in our demographic or our territory or whatever. Now, the majority of the pie is gray, and those are prospects that they either don't need what we have because they can't use it, or they've uh, maybe they've purchased what we sell all recently. Like we sell cars, and they bought a car 2 months ago, right? So they do not need what we sell, or they're not able to buy it from a financial standpoint or authority. But the red slice is are prospects that may need what we have. So there's a potential need there where they may want it or they could possibly buy it. Meaning the majority of the pie are people that we don't want to talk to. Another way to look at it is 3/4 of the pie are people that don't fit at all, and a quarter is a maybe a fit, right? Now, there's a small slice of the red piece that needs what we have right now and can buy and has money and whatever, right? So that's the does fit, and that would be your qualified slice of prospects. When we're pre-qualifying, we don't care about that so much. We just care about our prospects, are they in the may fit? Because this determines if we should even talk or not. Is this person worth us putting a meeting on the calendar? Now, I know if your calendar's wide open, you might just be trying to get a meeting with anybody, right? You want a meeting on your calendar, and you'll drive across the city, and you'll feel good and feel productive about scheduling a meeting. But if that meeting is with someone that's in the gray area and you could have identified that, then you shouldn't go on that meeting. You shouldn't take that person out to lunch. You shouldn't spend your valuable time. You should, even if you have no meetings that week, you should spend that hour or 2 hours that you'd spend with that bad prospect, you should spend that finding other prospects that are in the red. So our pre-qualifying questions are questions that determine and separate the don't fit from the may possibly fit. And let me give you some examples. These are examples for actually selling SalesScripter, the company that I'm with, right? And notice that these examples are questions for a particular audience. And this audience is sales managers. So these questions are kind of related to the topic here today if you happen to be a manager, which is so here, let me just hear some examples. How concerned are you about the amount of time it takes you to get new sales hires ramped up and performing? Right? That's something that we help with at SalesScripter. That's something we're talking about here today with teaching people to ask good questions. So that's a good question to ask, because if someone ramps up new sales hires immediately and they have no problems there, then I can't help them, So, but I might ask a couple others to see, to make sure, how confident are you that all of your sales resources are saying and asking the right questions when talking with prospects. If a sales manager is like they have all the right tools and the right questions and everybody trained perfectly, then I don't want to meet with them. I don't want to put time with them on my calendar. So you can see these questions kind of probe, and if I get any kind of an answer of, well, it could be better, or I don't know, then we're starting to identify, okay, that person, there might be a fit, and that's somebody I want to schedule a meeting with. Now, these are the most powerful questions, these pre-qualifying questions, and if I actually just point out, these are the questions that don't often get taught in that new hire training that we pointed out. If you teach someone on how the product works and all the features and pricing, you're not necessarily teaching them these key questions. And we pointed out that a salesperson will maybe rely on their past experience. Well, their past experience, it might not tell them these key questions. And what makes that a little bit more complicated, as I switch over to this next slide, here are 3 different pre-qualifying questions. What I changed here was I changed selling sales scripter to sales managers, and now I'm selling sales scripter to salespeople. I changed the audience component here, and what that means is my pre-qualifying questions should completely change, because when I'm talking to salespeople, they don't care about ramping up new sales hires, right? So they care about different things. So I need to be asking different questions. So every time you change the audience, you should actually have a different list of pre-qualifying questions. And that's what gets a little bit complicated. That's probably one of the reasons why a lot of companies don't teach exactly what pre-qualifying questions to look for, because there's probably a lot of different sets of questions. Now, your questions may be different when you change the title of one person to another. When you go from selling to IT to selling to operations, your questions might change. When you go from selling to a manufacturing industry customer to retail, your questions might change. So you should have a lot of different lists, but these questions are some of the most important questions that you should work on to improve your skills or improve your sales team. Let me give you clear direction. If you're saying, well, that kind of makes sense, that's kind of cool, but now I just need to build out some and I don't really know where to start. Here's a clear process for you to use to build your own pre-qualifying questions, because I can't provide those to you. They're going to be different for all of you. And it starts with you identifying the target prospect that you want to sell to, right? So, okay, think about either the industry or the title or the department or what they look like. Step 2 is what's the product or solution or group of products that you're going to want to try to sell to that prospect. By the way, in our world at Sales Scripter, we call those step 1 and 2 campaign coordinates, and that helps you to build out a campaign, and your campaign will include your pre-qualifying questions. But step 3 is identify what benefits that product delivers to that target prospect. And as I was pointing out, like when I offer different benefits to a salesperson as I do to a sales manager, even knowing they're using the same exact product. Once you've identified those benefits, use those benefits to identify what problems you help to fix. For each benefit, there is usually a corresponding problem that's fixed. And for each problem that you fix, you can then develop a probing question. So let me go through that to add a little bit more color to that. Here's an example, and this kind of falls with the questions I just showed you. Let me start my product. Oh, you know what? I have the example in the wrong place here, but these example boxes are flip-flop. But the target prospect is a sales manager example. The product I want to sell is Sales Scripter. Now let me think about a benefit that I offer to sales managers. Well, I help them to get new salespeople trained quicker than if they don't use my solution. Okay, so that's a benefit. What problem does that benefit help to fix? Well, it takes a long time. With sales managers that don't use Sales Scripter, it can often take a long time and be difficult to get new sales resources trained and ramped up. So that's a problem that I need to look for. And if I'm looking for that problem, a good pre-qualifying question for me to ask is, how concerned are you about the amount of time it takes to get new sales hires ramped up and performing? As far as I know, for what I sell, that's a great question for me to ask. And for the salespeople that work for me, I can easily give them that question along with others. What you do here is you rinse and repeat this process to come up with 3 or 4 really key probing questions. If you do that alone, you should make strides in your effort to be a better salesperson. What I love about pre-qualifying questions is you can use them in a lot of different ways. You can use them when you're cold calling. So instead of me calling and just talking about my product, let me call you and ask you as a sales manager about your onboarding and your new hire training and whatnot. So I can use those questions when I'm cold calling. I can use them when I'm networking. So I'm at a networking event. I happen to be talking to a sales manager. And by the way, when you're networking, you don't want to come off real salesy. So instead of me saying, oh, hey, we got this solution and it helps with training. I can say something like, you're a sales manager? Okay, great. Hey, what kind of, are you ever having any trouble with onboarding new sales hires? How long does it usually take you guys, right? So it actually sounds very conversational, and it gets us talking really well. Here's the great thing. When you get objections, respond with your pre-qualifying questions. So whether you're at an event or on the phone, let's say someone says, "Oh, I'm not really interested. We don't really need sales scripter." And again, I just keep going back to the same example, but then I can say something like, "Oh, hey Bob, I understand. But if I could ask you real quick, how long on average does it take you to ramp up a new sales hire? Is it taking 6 to 9 months, 3 to 6, or whatnot? Oh, well, it typically takes 3 to 6. And so what I did there is I just got away from that objection of I'm not interested. You can use it when you're talking to gatekeepers. So a gatekeeper might say, oh, can you send us your information, or you need to, we're not interested, or we don't need that right now. Oh, okay, yeah, I understand. Hey, but while I have you on the line, Mary, can I ask you real quick, do you know how long your new hire ramp up time is taking? I'm not sure. Oh, yeah. Well, see, that's why I'm trying to reach Bob, because that's something that he is probably really keen on or aware of, and I just wanted to get that information from you guys, or that's why I was calling. So you can use it when you talk to gatekeepers. These questions are a great way to start an appointment. So let's say you cold called and you schedule an appointment. So then you're on the appointment. Okay, let me take a step back. I want to learn a little bit more about you guys, and you start out with your pre-qualifying questions.